Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
What transcends a dream to a nightmare? FromSoftware's 2015 title Bloodborne is plenty captivating in its own right. Large, gothic cathedrals, bountiful and creative trick weapons, gods. Its role in the genre is a testament to FromSoftware's capabilities when it comes to adapting and evolving their own formula. Obviously, there's plenty of Dark Souls DNA in here, but there's also exceedingly so much more that often goes overlooked when it comes to analyzing their efforts. Encapsulating an era is a fine enough accomplishment, be it in all mediums of entertainment, but a key and overlooked factor is the method in which the viewer, in this case the player, is themselves involved in it. The world may reflect a certain attitude or character, but if there isn't a connection, a reason to engage, then really there is no fruit from the labor. Ludonarrative dissonance is the main plaguing factor of these story-driven games. As heartfelt and gut-wrenching of a narrative you may have on your hands, if the game fails to give a reason for the player's involvement, then what's even the point? Ludonarrative dissonance, if you aren't aware, is a common fault in stories where the actions of characters in cinematic cutscenes don't reflect the same actions that are committed in gameplay. Now, I hesitantly say fault, by the way, because this doesn't always ruin a narrative entirely. In fact, it can be used artistically. In The Witcher 3, after you rescue your adopted daughter, there's a completely optional gameplay segment where you have a snowball fight. But the game keeps the serious tonality of a boss fight while having the guise of a frivolous and heartfelt moment. A fun way to lighten the mood while having heavily contrasting assets. An example of poorly executed ludonarrative dissonance is The Last of Us Part 2. In Bloodborne, you are the main character. You take on the persona of a hunter, and because it doesn't lock you into a pre-existing role within the world, you immediately become involved in it much more personally. You are an outsider and are treated as such.
Wretched outsider. Trying to fool me to open this door. Heavens, the depths of depravity.
Your unfamiliarity with the world is exactly how a foreigner would feel when they come to a new country. All the victories and failures are tied to you, and therefore you personally feel the outcomes of those instances. You can go watch Vati Vidya for the lore of Bloodborne, but the events that once conspired don't equal the same thing as its core narrative. You never experience the rise of the Healing Church, nor do you witness Gascoigne and Henrik being a duo of hunters, and you don't see their eventual descent into madness. Of course, all of this knowledge is discovered via the game, but that knowledge isn't why you partake of the hunt. Those details aren't why you arrived in Yharnam in the first place. They're there to better realize and immerse you in the world for the sake of truly connecting with the heart of its core narrative. Dark Souls originated this with a similar formula. You awaken in the Northern Undead Asylum. You don't know why you were there or why that place exists. All you know is that you are a special chosen undead. You are given another chance at life. You proceed past the asylum demon and awaken at Firelink Shrine. A man awaits you there. He tells you that he, like many others, has lived a similar story, wanting to accomplish monumental things, but never persevering to accomplish them. He half-heartedly wishes you good luck while giving you a beginning goal.
Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town.
The upward press through the undead burg and the soul-crushing descent through Blight Town are both testaments to discovering your true worth as a chosen undead, as accomplishing said Herculean task deems you worthy as the true chosen undead, fit to save the realm of Lordran. But what about those who never ring the second bell? What about those, like myself on my first playthrough, gave up at Blight Town, unable to find a way forward? A common phrase you're likely familiar with if you've played Dark Souls is, "Don't you dare go hollow." Hollowing is a concept in Dark Souls that, when you've lost all humanity and resolve, you go mad, you decay, and you exist no more. All the way up until the second bell, many corpses scatter the street, corpses still clad with chainmail and with weapons and consumable items on their persons. These are the ones who went hollow. And so Dark Souls puts the player into the role of the chosen undead, where failing to oblige relinquishes you to the same fate so many a mentor heeded you to stray from. You go hollow. The man at the Firelink Shrine was right. You weren't able to become the true chosen undead. By giving up and failing to claim your title, you become those ironclad bodies on the side of the road, your valuables left for another, more determined soul to recover. This is the striving connection that Dark Souls makes with its narrative. Gwyn and his children may be interesting legends, but the story of their assumed fame pales in comparison to the active role you play in attaining true humanity. Now, Bloodborne is quite the different beast. You could say an active equivalent to Hollowing would be to descend into the nightmare, but the resolve doesn't merely persist among one outcome. You see, Bloodborne's method of involvement exists more as a choice than a doomed fate. There are members of the Healing Church who seek to continue in the practice of blood administration, caring more for the acclaimed outcome rather than the torturous process of which to attain it. The Vile Bloods live for the sole purpose of garnering immortality, and therefore sacrificed most whims of morality to attain it. Similar to the Church, they focus strictly on their hopeful outcome. The Martyrs hunt the Vile Bloods because they believe one class having such power is unjust to the many less fortunate, investing solely into achieving true martyrdom. By pure intrinsic observation, you can easily see the faulty common theme. The outcome-based mindset for all of these plagued factions becomes their biggest folly, as they slowly lose all rationale, empathy, and humanity. Lawrence becomes so dependent on the administration of Old Blood that it turns him into a vicar, bound indefinitely to his beastly corporeal form. Ludwig the Accursed befalls a similar fate, where his investment in total lust for the Holy Moonlight Sword corrupts him to a point of insanity, giving up his passion for weapons craft and transforming him into the nightmare of his own making. Even Alfred, what once was a simple and friendly companionship, turns into an abhorrent and blood-drunken thirst for achieving his place as a martyr. He does what he believes is killing the Queen of the Vile Bloods, but ultimately prematurely ascends to martyrdom as the Queen is revived. All of these tragic nightmares are Bloodborne's ways of illustrating its own popular phrase, fear the old blood. The term of fearing the old blood is variably much more specific to certain elements of Yharnam's history than per se, don't you dare go hollow, but its implications of a heated warning stem equally to all its diverging paths. Lawrence didn't fear the old blood and partook of it, causing him to become a vicar. Ludwig partook of the Holy Moonlight ritual and became monstrous and wicked. Alfred sought to take up the title of martyrdom and prematurely shed his own blood to achieve it. With many different mindsets and routes to delve through, the player themselves witnesses the effects of these unheeded warnings, whilst they themselves are going down the exact same path, be it they know it or not. Eileen the Crow's story best describes the process by which hunters, including the player, befall their own tragic fate. Eileen is a hunter of hunters. She has witnessed and experienced the dream equally as the rest. She hunted beasts, just as all hunters do, but recognized the folly in their labor. Hunters will hunt with no true end. Eileen joins the Crows, who recognize the eventual madness that blood-drunk hunters will fall to. Her reliance on the dream persists for the sole reason of ending those who intoxicate themselves on that which they should fear. Towards the end of Eileen's questline, you find her, wounded at the foot of the Grand Cathedral. Eileen at this point is still able to partake of the dream, but in her injured state, rests as we the player fight and conquer what is Eileen's last depending reason for the dream. Only then, after the bloody crow of Cainhurst is slain, does Eileen die. Her covenant fulfilled, she can enjoy her rest. If the player chooses to continue to hunt, disregarding Eileen throughout their playthrough, instead of facing the bloody crow of Cainhurst at the Grand Cathedral, you fight Eileen. She only fights hunters who are too far gone within their hunt, and therefore by engaging in combat, the player falls into the exact same fate as the other frenzy-driven hunters which now dwell within the nightmare. Bloodborne's consolidated outcome is much less deliberate than Dark Souls'. By partaking in the hunt, we make ourselves susceptible to corruption, and only through specific outcomes do we fulfill our purpose within the dream. Dark Souls says not to give up, to keep pushing and to not go hollow. Bloodborne, however, says to be determined, but yet remain precarious. We must all undergo the hunt, whether or not we finish doesn't matter. We are guaranteed a resting place in the dream, unlike Hollowing where we get left on the streets. Bloodborne ultimately questions the further outcomes of determination. What happens when we push too far? Bye.